Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of Quickmail.io.
And this is Mar with ZenMade.
With ZenMade.
Am I introducing the topic today, or do you want to?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about time out of the office, the quote unquote office, for those of you that are just listening to this. So essentially, we just wanted to chat a little bit about kind of time away from your desk, time away from maybe the computer, whether that's team retreats, whether that's like actual time off for a vacation. We may touch on entrepreneur retreats a little bit, and just kind of talking about where that fits into kind of the founder's journey and all that jazz.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I think I suggested this. Next week, I'm going on working from a co-working space somewhere else. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I took a day off, but I actually spent it with another founder, and we just did mastermind and then talked about businesses and so on. So, is there really a real time of the office that is also time off? Like for me, Quickmail is always on kind of thing, right? It's really only when I go on vacation with my family that it's really off. Everything else is always on pretty much. And I wanted to figure out if it was also always on for you, or if there is, time off and different ways of going away from the business or away from the office and all those things.
Yeah, I would say I'm virtually always on in the past like 8 years that we've been in the business. There's maybe been a total of maybe 3 weeks or so, maybe a little bit longer than that I've essentially been like actually off. So that was when we were running the volcano retreats in Italy. That for 2 years when I went there, I was completely like away from ZenMade, and that was a bit stressful at the time. Now I can do that quite comfortably. I don't, but I could, and I probably will start to soon. But at that time, it did feel like, if something went wrong while I was on that island, that there could be some serious damage to the business. So that was very, very stressful.
I caught you lying on camera today because I remember, was it like Kiwi Burn or something like that, like where you spent an
hour? Oh, I'd forgotten about that. Kiwi Burn is the same thing. Yeah, same situation. Yeah, Kiwi Burn, there was absolutely no reception. Plus there was no power, right? So like you couldn't even keep charged devices. Like there was absolutely nothing. For those of you guys that aren't familiar with that, that's the Burning Man that's done in New Zealand every year. That has maybe 5,000 or 6,000 folks. So I did actually get internet in the middle of that.
I think you sneaked out in order to see the score.
I was about to say that exactly. I got taken into town to like get more supplies for our camp with like one of my friends, and I got there, turned on my phone, checked the Arsenal score to make sure that they won, turned my phone back off, and like went back to it for like three or four days.
So that was a real week off, right? And I think for me, it's a total luxury as a business owner. And it's a shame because on one way, I think that when we got distance from business, that also leads to the better insight. Like we are not, day to day preoccupied by all the problem noise that there is from operation. And so therefore we got the luxury of coming back fresh with maybe new ideas, new way of thinking, like even like wondering like, why did we do it this way? Let's do it this way. That sounds better and stuff like that. I really feel like those are really rare moments where we can sort of like refill or not refill our battery, because I do refill them, but it's more like taking a real break, from the business. I think it's like super rare when this happens.
Well, I think that, I mean, yes and no, because I think that it sounds like from the way that you're describing it, that you have to be like 100% off in order for something like that to happen. And
yeah, you're right.
Well, but yeah, and so that's something that I think is very like interesting, because I don't feel like I need that, and in a lot of ways it's more stressful that like I'm able to step away from the business for like a week or two at a time, but I would still consider myself to be like pseudo on in the fact that like I'm going to monitor Slack first thing in the morning and like at night, and then I also have WhatsApp set up so that if there's an actual emergency, the team can get in contact with me. But that'll be set up where like, if I'm spending the day with the wife or we're going like paddle onboarding or doing something, it's wake up at 6 a.m. before everyone else, spend half an hour to just make sure that I can just have my mind at ease and forget about things. And then I can take most of the data myself, be refreshed in the evening, double check nothing's wrong. So, yeah, I mean, I just think there's levels to it. I think being like 100% off can be insanely like valuable, but you can also like very much turn off. Think almost like a device in standby mode, right?
That's
like
right.
It's not on.
That's
but
exactly
it's
right. That's exactly right. And I think you're right. Those are like precious moments where you effectively like completely off. But most of the time we are on standby. Like, sure, we can prepare the day, making sure nothing will happen, which I do too, right? But we'll be always back on straight away. Like it's like one key, awake kind of thing. Like if there is, a problem, like in fact, I had to cancel one of our podcasts because we had a red alert at some point, last week or something like that. It's not nice, but that means, if there is a problem, then we can effectively jump in. I'm wondering if this is also due to our sort of like structure and we're still too small to have, proper thing. But okay, we're going probably like too far. The goal of this podcast is really time off from the office. So what are some of the different types of time off we could have?
Yeah.
You want to add something? Go ahead.
I want to just add something there. So one thing that I think is quite interesting, because you said that you guys had a red alert and so you canceled this this podcast. I'd be interested to know what your sort of level is for like what's a red alert and where you step back in, because I get the feeling that in terms of our comfort with things going like wrong, I'm much more comfortable with things not going according to plan. Like to me, an emergency at ZenMaid is like the system is down. Right. One customer is having like a critical issue, the team will take care of that. I'm not getting involved, and I don't expect the tech team to drop what they're doing to fix it. Right? We have too many customers for that.
So here's one thing. I'm going to be very quick because our listener wants to hear about time off the office. So the very quick thing is like we didn't know how important it was, and it was just right at the time where I started the podcast. So I asked my friend, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do podcast right now. I need to assess how important this thing is, and I did it with the team. And they went ahead and fixed it, honestly. So that's all good on that end. So let's go back to the topic, and what are some of the time of the office that you can think of that a founder will naturally be involved in?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I just want to plug Jeremy's other podcast for those of you guys that want to go listen to it. He's been doing that one for a couple of years.
That's right,
with his friend Jack. So more than that. So
4 years.
Just want to give Jeremy a quick shout out there. I'm probably going to get you 2 more listeners. Okay,
one more.
So the things that come to mind for me is, so there's like of course, just kind of your traditional time off, whether that's taking like a holiday or whether it's taking a day off or like the weekends. I also would consider like team retreats to be time, maybe not time off, but time out of the office, right? So building up the team, we can talk about that. Entrepreneur retreats or other like events, right? Conferences and things like that. And then in some ways, even like social gatherings, but I feel like that's probably a little bit less. If I don't think we need to talk about, going for drinks after work or like anything like that. But I think those are the main ones. I guess from a founder's perspective, there's also like all sorts of like non-entrepreneurial retreats, right? As you can go and do like a Vipassana yoga or a meditation, right? Where it's
meditation,
like a silent
3 weeks in a cave.
Yeah, exactly. You can do all sorts of things. If you're a founder or an entrepreneur, there's all sorts of things you can do for your mental health that aren't related to the business. So yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is when we go away, usually we take the office with us because we're obviously a remote company. So when I go to Japan, actually not really time of the office. I even have the feeling that sometimes I go in the office when I go in Japan.
Yeah.
This is like, full on, working, working time, like deep work kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I like the thing about sometimes like, how valuable do you think for a founder it is to, for example, go on a founder retreat? Like, for example, like meeting other founders, going on a founder retreat, like you mentioned the volcano at some point, but there's other
Yeah.
type of, founder retreats. Like, how important do you think that is?
I think that it's going to depend a lot on the founder and a lot on the retreat. I think that if you can find the right ones, they are insanely, insanely valuable. I think that if you find the wrong ones, then you're going to feel like you're wasting your time and your money. So it feels like a cop-out answer, but of course it depends. You know, I would say a lot of it has to do with how strong like your network is. That I feel like for you and me, Jeremy, we don't really need to go to any of these like events or retreats and stuff, even though we still get a lot of benefits from them. But I would say if you're listening to this and you feel like you don't have a lot of entrepreneurs in your life, that you don't have a lot of friends that are striving for the same goals that many of us are, and that you probably are, if you're listening to this, then I think that retreats and kind of finding your tribe might actually be, it would definitely be more beneficial. Of course, there's also the question of like opportunity costs and all that.
Nice. I think I slightly disagree with you, which is awesome. Finally,
Okay.
something we're disagreeing on the podcast today. I think they're absolutely insanely valuable.
Okay. Oh, actually, sorry. Can
But
I just ask, what are you thinking when you say retreat? Because I was almost
like
more
founder
thinking like a
retreats,
bigger,
like multiple founders going
like
into
how many people?
now you're getting to the point of it.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
say 10
Because if you're
maximum.
talking about like 5 people like us, then yes, insanely valuable. I was
Exactly.
thinking like DCX London, that was 40 people.
That's different than
my
Evans.
response there.
Evans, we need to talk about it.
Okay.
And you got something to say about Evans. But no, I'm talking about retreats. Like we also did like the foundation. We did.
Yeah.
So you got the volcano. What other founder retreat did I do?
We did in Montreal. We met up in Montreal with Dave and
Oh yeah,
those
annual
guys.
mastermind retreat. Oh,
Yeah.
freaking insanely cool,
Yeah.
those things. I think those ones are insanely valuable. My caveat to this is it becomes harder and harder to find people at higher and higher level who can actually effectively bring you a lot of value. Like, it's fine when you're bootstrapping. Like, actually, this is the reason why I stopped organizing the Foundation Europe, because every time we went into the Foundation Europe, then it was more and more I was more and more disconnected from my problems as a business, were more and more disconnected for their business problems. So it's fine as like gathering with friends, but it isn't what, I was looking for. I was looking, I have friends already, but the point is that I was looking for other founders to actually, bounce ideas and then help my business, and not just a gathering of friends, because then it becomes a holiday. And then when it becomes a holiday, I have to think like, do I want to spend holiday with them or with my family? And, and then, to do like a sort of comparison on that end. But I think they are incredibly valuable. Did you do what is it, like something with, my names are going to be annoying.
The Sterling Assembly?
Yes. Yeah. Man, we're thinking alike. Like, how did you actually think of that?
I was in it, but I figured I just knew we were thinking there. But it's because I was in it. If I wasn't in that, I would have no idea what you were talking about. Yeah, Sterling Assembly.
Brilliant.
Yes,
like,
I was in
I'm
that.
amazed. Like, Emma is just reading my mind. Brilliant. We're so aligned. It's amazing. Oh man, huge respect for you on this one. Yeah. So so those sort of things for me, they're amazing. I'd love to join more of them, but it becomes harder and harder to find the level of people who will effectively share your same problem and will be able to actually go and gather together for a certain time. I think that's a problem personally that I find. Not that it's at all level type of things, like it's not as important kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So so if I can amend my answer then, because my answer was really more for events, I 100% agree with what you said, that if you're talking about 5 to 10 people where you've managed to get into the same room where most people are at similar levels, right?
Exactly.
Then that's insanely valuable.
You could be battling with a problem for like 3 months or half a year, not knowing how to resolve something. You go into that room, bang, you got like 6 ideas on how to solve it. You go in and then you solve it. It's like freaking invaluable for your business. Absolutely.
And and if you're listening to this, particularly if you're like starting out, if you're early on, it's a lot easier to find people, right?
That's right.
Like what Jeremy was saying, that as you get further and further along, of course, there are less and less entrepreneurs that are going to be like at that level, right?
Yeah,
that,
let's say, for example,
you know,
my problems are with culture, like, organizing the culture or like hiring thing. And then you have to compare it with someone who is doing 9 to 5, still working on his own and alone. The problems are definitely not going to be the same. It's fine. But,
I've always
that won't
found
actually help that much.
Yeah, I've always found similar business model and then similar team size is what I found to be the most like useful thing over like similar revenue, that I felt like, because when we were making 15K a month at ZenMaid, I was already treating it like a company and was barely taking anything out like for myself. So I was employing a bunch of people. But, if I was talking to like, a solo dev at 15K, like I think at 15K for you, were you still solo at that point, or did you already have
I was
like
solo until
still solo?
I consider myself like until 50K, I was having a job with like 2 people helping me to answer tickets. But
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
That wasn't a company.
Yeah, but what I found is, so like at that point, the conversations that you and I would have had would not have been all that productive because the challenges would have been completely different. So yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I would say is just like, you guys can create that create that for yourselves if you're listening to this. And Jeremy has done that amazingly in the past. I've done that in the past like as well. And now I just let Jeremy do it. It makes my life much easier. I'm just like, cool, I'll be there. And Jeremy gets everyone else. Yeah, I know. But okay, so I wanted to make a note on what you were saying about it being essentially a holiday or like a vacation if it ends up just not being like that productive. So the way that I always think about these things is I think of them as like social time,
correct, but
like productive social time. And like, but the thing is, like, I think about that even when I'm going in with really high level founders that I expect to get a ton of value. I'm like, my mindset that I've always found help me is just, I'm here to enjoy myself. I'm going to learn things, but this is essentially social time that I'm hanging out with people. And then the one thing that I think is like subtly different than what you were saying is that I essentially go, this is productive social time that it's okay for me to take out of the business, but it doesn't cut into my other social time. Right? Or particularly, it doesn't come to my other social time with family. So I kind of have it like compartmentalized in my head of like, I spend X amount of time, and if I'm not spending this amount of time like with family, then I'm like not fulfilling like family duties, whether that's with Fran, whether it's with my mom, whatever it might be. And then I have time with friends that I consider to be separate social time. And so these professional events, I usually will pull those hours out of that like social time with friends, because oftentimes I'm hanging out with some of my best friends at these events. And so that's how I kind of think of it. And then it makes it a lot easier when sometimes I show up and I'm just like, like this wasn't really worth like coming to. So like, okay, like I had a drink or two, I had a nice conversation or two. I didn't really get any business benefit out of this, but it's okay. It was just social time, like anyways.
I guess there's a couple of things here. Like, I'm way more of a maximizer, but at the same time, when I go in the social gathering, I'm not expecting to have any breakthrough, but it's more like the atmosphere in which you are, right? And it's like lots of people trying to solve problems, and it's like, energize you and then actually going, upwards, right? I guess you don't have kids yet, right? So I think this is another dimension that you're going to be experiencing.
Yeah, time away. It's time away from the family and stuff.
Exactly. It's very, very different, I would say. It has an impact for sure. But mostly I pretty much agree with what you're saying. It's more like I wouldn't like you or people to think that when I'm going to this gathering, I'm like, it has to be value for me, otherwise, well, it has to be some sort of value to us, right? Otherwise we wouldn't go. But it's not like in order to get something solved, otherwise it was useless kind of thing. Like sometimes we made some really good people that will then generate some long friendship, which is actually what happened to us when we met into Foundation. I wasn't expecting it, but when
where was that? Spain? Was that Barcelona that we met for the first time? Where was it that we met for the first time?
Maybe. Italy
it was Italy before. Yeah, it was before the Rome event. Remember we met up in central Rome at that apartment for like, a night or two before everyone else came in.
Yeah,
and
and
then
then
we
I
went over
realized
to, like,
like
the big
straight away,
mansion.
like, oh, this guy is sharp. He's in, he's very interesting. I like talking to
Mhm.
him, and it's socially fun as well to hang out with. It's like it was like that whole combination. I wasn't coming on say, right, I'm expecting to make like 2 friends. Otherwise, this useless, this
Yeah.
thing is useless. No, I was just coming in to have fun with other people trying
Yeah.
to do things, right? And so it was more like
Yeah.
a tribe things, and that's a sort of
Yeah.
I like. But at some point, like I mentioned, we may actually just like it's almost like feeling like fuck, I joined the wrong tribe. It's like I will, and that's when I think that the event is not as valuable and it doesn't work that well. Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, I think it's, again, I think a lot of the conversations that we have, a lot of times they just come down to just semantics, but I don't think that I would say like I joined the wrong tribe, but to me what it was is at some point the foundation tribe was no longer for you. And I think that that's a much healthier way of kind of thinking about it, because whatever tribe that like we consider ourselves to be in right now, that may not be the same like kind of tribes that serve us in the future, right? Like I'm still in the Dynamite Circle, for example, which you left, I think, sometime last year, right? Or this year, I don't even remember like when, right? And so
last year.
Yeah.
When there was COVID and I had to rethink, like basically I went to Bangkok and I really like, the people there. There's absolutely no problem with that. I think it was very nice to meet again some people, some friends like Bounty and stuff like that. It was really cool. I had a good time and so on. But in terms of like, was it useful for my business? I think it was like a no. And so therefore at that point I had to think like, should I actually carry on with Dynamite Circle, or should I, just exit and, and focus on other things? And I figured out like, I'm going to give it another chance for Austin. And it turns out like we couldn't even go to Austin because of the COVID and so on. I say, look, I'm not very active. I'm not getting as much, for my business, and my free time is like super scarce. So I prefer to spend it on something else. That's it. I still have some good friends from there, and it's cool. It's just not the tribe for my business at this stage. And I think that's what I'm conscious about. But I haven't found a new tribe actually for, where my business is at the moment. So I'd be interested in.
I keep thinking about SaaS Academy. That's the one that I keep like coming back to, because from what I can tell, that's just like, that's the community that has the highest kind of like level, at least publicly, of like bootstrapped SaaS founders, right? Like we've talked about Dan Martell a little bit, and like, I'm a little bit questionable there, but in terms of the tribe and the people that I would expect to connect with, I think that like, that's probably the next obvious one, but I still just have a hard time stomaching the cost that they're asking for, when I'm just like, you're just going to show me how to do like a demo. We nailed.
I think they already rejected you. That's fine. You rejected their offer. I think you never join it anymore. I think, or something like that. That was
something like that. Yeah.
But the point is that to make you feel better, I know someone who is on the inside, and I was saying like, oh, that must be great and so on. And you should be like around like, ton of like really good SaaS business owner and so on. And he said, well, actually, no, a lot of them are still like, in the 10K, 20K type of revenue. And I was like, oh, interesting. I wasn't expecting that. So again, it could be a misconception or the way we interpret things, but should we go back to topic? So we covered holidays, sort of.
Maybe this will be really interesting, because we just keep going off on complete different tangents. Like maybe it will be a good one. I don't know. I think I'm going to see Bill this week, so I'll ask
team
him.
Retreat. I think honestly, I think on next level, Amar, and I'm like saying like in all seriousness, I don't think it's an announce on the podcast, because we kind of like discussed that already. But I think we'll need to do on next level team retreats. Like we'll need to find the right entrepreneurs and and try to gather them all together, and then have our own sort of like assembly for ourselves, right? So we'll
really agree.
We'll stay in touch. I got a few names already that I want to mingle with, so that could be interesting. All right, next thing, events.
Should we start our own SaaS community, Jeremy? Is that like where this is leading? Should we start like our own SaaS community of people making like more than 89K a month?
That's right? It has to be like, or more than $1 million a year, I think. There's nothing wrong with the other one. I really love them. I really love.
Exactly.
I mean, whenever someone tells me like, hey, I made, you can put any number, even if it's maybe even $1, actually, it's like, I'm always congrats, because the 0 to 1 I think is the freaking hardest one.
So hard.
Once you got that, I mean, like, like people say, oh, I got a small business, Jeremy, it's only $5K a month. And it's like, you're kidding me? It's like freaking awesome. I'm like super pumped for them. At the same
Yeah.
time, I'm not expecting to learn a lot for my business at their level, right?
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
totally okay. But you're right. We
Yeah.
probably need to build our own one, and we're probably going to have some sort of like, requirement for entry and stuff like that.
That probably get us more podcast listeners.
Yeah. Sorry for that. We are just wasting your time rambling here. All right. Point is, let's talk about events. What do you think about
Yeah.
events at the Founder? Because I got mixed feelings about this. Actually, I got two opposite
Do you
feelings
mean
about this.
like industry event with like your potential customers,
Well, that's
or
probably where
like event as if like,
that's probably where they come. It's
okay.
like we got the SaaStr type of events, right?
Yeah.
And then we got the dynamic circle type of event. So one is a sort of like tribe type of events, and the other one is a industry type
Yeah.
of events, right?
Well, no, but
Okay,
because
maybe not.
I'm sorry, I more meant, well, actually, I guess SaaStr for you might be like a lead gen thing, because for me, I'm thinking like the annual MADE conference that happens in Las Vegas every year. To
Yeah,
me,
okay,
that's a
different
very
one.
different thing than me going to SaaStr or to Dynamite Circle,
Correct.
right? So yeah.
Well,
So
let's
okay,
talk
so
about this.
let's
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like a pretty quick one. I've found those events to be a complete waste of time for our business, like
All events?
specifically, but they are a lot of fun. All of the ARCSI ones that we've gone to, which is like the big like industry kind of event. There's a couple factors for that though, that we're not a software that people make a snap decision to make. So there's a timing to it. I will still send team members to those events if they want to go, but I don't really expect many results out of them. It's more like, I know that they'll deepen a couple relationships, they'll make a couple of friends, maybe that'll come back and like make us some money like in the future. But I've essentially stopped, sponsoring things. I got invited to speak in Chicago at an event next month, I think, and turned that down because it doesn't give us like any real business benefit. And if you're going to go there to essentially create content, I can do that from here and already do it, better than like anyone else in the industry, right? Or our team does. So that's how I feel about those. Those are very social. Like, you go to those events, it's because you want to hang out with a bunch of people in the industry. It's not because we're going to get any new business or learn much.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on the company and where you're at. Like, it could be like, for example, when I was in SaaStr in Paris, there was a big booth for Zoom, and to them it was like 100% lead gen. Like, you come to their booth and then they explain you, and then they get your card, and then after that they sort of like contact you and so on. And I guess I got the same approach to you. For me, it's a social gathering. It's like making connection, making relationship, networking a bit, and so on. And there are then, if you consider that from this lens, there are like those two different events for me. There is the DC type of events, and there is the SaaStr type of events. When one is the DC is, I'm going to resonate with the individuals. Like, it's cool. Like, we are sort of like part of the same tribe. We're sort of like motivated by the same thing. I'm generalizing, right? But it's like we have a common interest type of thing, right? And then then it's easier to connect. I've been like spending time with some people, and developing relationship. That's great. I like those ones. They are social gathering. It's cool for some time for the business, but it's like an after sort of like for, so it's purely networking and friendship, right? That way. But the SaaStr one is very different. You got people who are from, it's more like a similarity at the company level, not at the individual level, which means it's like super hard to actually make real connection. Most of them, they're all into that mode about like, I have to find leads. And then for the other one that you have to talk to is like, they're very, very different motivation and motivation to join as well, right? So you will have someone that is just like purely a salesperson, is not interested in, really connecting with other people. The maximum, and I did try, right? When I went to SaaStr, I think the maximum I could spend was like 10 minutes with someone, just because they couldn't find someone else to look around. It's that this thing where you go and talk to someone, you say, oh, who are you? What do you do? And then suddenly they look over your shoulder like, okay, they are trying to find someone else to talk to, those sort of things. And it's like, this is not the right environment to build up real relationship. It's just an environment to gather business cards. And I was pretty disappointed by this type of event. So for me, it's like
Yeah.
no interest for
I
my business really per se, and no interest
yeah.
for, the social gathering either. I was
Yeah.
like, why the fuck was I going
Yeah.
there? Right.
Yeah. I would only go to an event like that if like you were going, and essentially if it was an
Exactly.
excuse for
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of us to go, where it's like, hey, we're all going to go to SaaStr. The fact that it's SaaStr is not really the thing here, except that if like there's 4 or 5 of us, then we might know
So
other
funny.
people, and then all of a sudden you get like 10 or 20 people that you might actually get a chance to deeply like connect with. But I would not go to SaaStr not knowing anyone and expect to get any other value. The other thing I was going to say that
Very true.
it's funny because I thought that you were going to say this. It hadn't occurred to me, but you didn't, obviously, which is at the DC events, the speakers are part of the tribe. And there's no
Oh, that's
speakers
true.
that you feel like, you can't go and talk to or have a normal conversation with, right? Like, I just saw Laura Roeder from Meet Edgar speak, and then we had a bunch of
Yeah,
nice
she's awesome.
conversations
Yeah.
after that. Yeah, and at SaaStr and those, from what I've heard, is
They
it's
come
like,
on stage
okay,
and they
we're gonna
leave.
have, and they leave, exactly, and they're not there to meet people. You don't see them
Yeah, they
after at
don't
the
care.
events, right? Like, they're at like that sort of like level or whatever, that they're just not going to do that, right? Or like at SaaStr, the other thing that I didn't like about that is like, they're bringing in like, the head of customer success or something from Intercom. And it's like, I'm sure that you're great at your job. I'm sure that you do a really good job and that I'd be lucky to have you on my team. But like, that's not who I'm really here to like learn from or like connect with, and so to me, SaaStr misses the mark like a little bit. But I think in large part, I think because they do a lot more enterprise like SaaS. I think if we were
That's
talking a bit
correct.
more
That's
about
exactly
micro
what.
SaaS, that would
It's
make a
really a
big
massive
difference.
lead gen thing. That's really all
Exactly.
there is. And I was talking with Nick, from ChartMogul, like we talked about yesterday. We talked with yesterday. I was exchanging briefly on his. He has like a Slack channel for founders, which basically you should join actually. It's
Is that Mogul?
Yeah, Mogul.io.
Okay.
And basically, someone was saying, Nick was saying like, hey, we are going to, SaaStr in San Francisco, whatever, like, is anyone going? And I just mentioned like, I'm not going, those things are a waste of time and so on. And I related my experience to SaaStr in Paris. And he basically mentioned exactly the same things. Like, yeah, he totally agrees. But the only reason he's going is that it's an excuse to find other, the other friends. It's like that excuse where those friends can say to their company, oh, we're going there for some lead gen. And so because everyone's got this excuse at this right time, then it actually is a good way to sort of like meet your friends, basically.
Yeah. I told the ZenMaid team, I was just like, look, like, we've been to these things before. Like, you don't need to focus on lead gen. Don't make anyone feel like you're selling them. Just be friendly, just make friends, exactly. Have a good time. And like, if they need you in the future, they will contact you. Like, our branding and marketing is strong enough that you don't have to sell anyone there. They will come to you whenever they are ready. And once we changed that, everything just became a lot more fun, a lot like just more like relaxing. And honestly, we got better results. One thing I will say though, at least in terms of the industry events, where the industry events have been insanely valuable for us, and honestly, in hindsight, have probably made us hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point, was the relationships that I was able to build with the influencers in the industry. So and that was like a big one. We run the Made Summit every year now, and I've met more than half the speakers. I've met them in person and had a drink with them at one point or another over the past couple of years. So I would say that if you're listening to this and you're kind of up and coming, and you're trying to make a dent like in the industry, it might make sense to show up and to be at these events and stuff. But there's largely diminishing returns. I don't really think that I'm going to be going to them in the future, but they were helpful to get us off the ground. So,
and if you're listening to Amar advice, my advice on top of that would be, yeah, sure, do that, but try to pre-wire these sort of like meeting beforehand. Like, contact those influencers and say, hey, I'm going to this event, would there be any interest in, huge fan of what you're doing, whatever. Would there be any possibility to sort of like meet and have a drinks together just to get to know each other, a little bit better? I'm up and coming, whatever kind of thing. And I think that will be much better than going there and expecting everyone or expecting to find people, it's like a needle in a haystack.
That can be challenging.
Right.
Yeah, that can be really challenging. So
Cool. So did we cover all the time off of the office? It's like, is it only like then the social? Oh, it's for business
yeah. Well,
or holidays?
let's talk about team retreats quickly.
Oh yeah,
Let's
okay.
touch on
Forgot that one.
touch on that before we
Forgot
before
that one
we
because
wrap it up,
of
because
the
that's an interesting
COVID.
one.
Because of the COVID, like 2 years in a row where we wanted to get that organized, and we really can't do it. I hope next year we'll be able to do finally that, that team
Oh,
retreat.
you guys aren't? Because I thought that you were talking about doing it in like a month or two. No,
Yeah, but we
not
have
gonna
to
happen?
cancel it because one guy actually can't. One of the half of the team can't come because either they have like a lockdown or because they don't have the visa or whatever. So it's like, yeah, great. Let's just postpone it
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
We'll try
And
to do it
one of
maybe
the
in
things that,
spring next year if it works, but yeah, we'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah, I've definitely come to the conclusion that if I want to have a team retreat, like I've got to go to the team, right? That like we can't do it in different like places, that we pretty much got to pick the most convenient place for the rest of the team. And if I have to travel halfway around
You
the
can spend your
world to
whole
be
year
like at that
popping to each
retreat,
team member,
that's pretty much what I've done for the past couple of years. Like if you think about it, like I have managed to see a lot of our team like over time, and to see like a lot of people. But actually, one of the reasons that we did set up the way that we have here, like here in London, is so that we're able to host people. So like our COO Chris is coming in with his girlfriend, that he'll come in, I think in 2 weeks, and he'll be here for
Nice.
about a week. So then they get 3 or 4 days that they'll have 100% off work to go into London and to
What
experience
was wrong with
London and everything.
Koh Phangan?
Yeah, right. It was nice there. It was nice there, but now we live in Europe. Now we're back in the Western world. But like in addition to that, so he's going to get a bit of a vacation being here, but then we'll also have 3 very intense like work days. So it'll be a work hard, play hard, like kind of week. Yeah. But yeah, so what do you think of like of team retreats? Like if you're going to be doing one, hopefully like Q1 of next year, what's sort of the purpose of that? What are you looking to like to get out of that?
Yeah, it's a great
Have you done them
question.
before?
No, I haven't done some before, unfortunately. That's something I always wanted to do. Well, not always, but I now want to do. Now we have a real company, and it's not just me and 2 assistants. But I did one. My bad. I did one with a developer and a support in Canada. But they're not with us anymore. So that's probably why I didn't think of it. We did one. It was pretty good, actually. We did got a lot accomplished, a lot done. Help us as well to know each other a bit better. So all of that actually worked pretty well. And I'm thinking you froze, Emma. Damn it! Yeah, well, that's probably. Oh, it's coming.
I can still hear you though. The
Okay,
audio,
cool.
audio is still coming through. Yeah, I could hear you the entire time. Sorry about that.
No worries. So we had one in. I really like it. I thought we were like too small a group, because it was too much relying on me. I'd like to have more like interaction between team members rather than me being the sort of like starfish, star in the middle.
The spoke.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd
Yeah.
like some. I mean, for me, the idea of creating a team retreat is also from all team members to sort of know each other a bit better, be on Slack, and be able to work better when they come back, in their home.
Yeah.
That's the sort of idea. I'm also looking. So there are like 3 levels that I'm thinking of, and maybe completely off. And maybe once I do a team retreat or 2 or more than 1, obviously, then I may change my mind. But for me, it's like about like working together, getting to understand and building relationship between team members, and also generate those sort of like space of time where we can think about the company as a team, like whether it's like about culture. We do have like culture meeting, but definitely we'll do a circle of feedback where we can just give feedback straight away about like the whole thing. So those sort of things is like I'm looking very much forward for those activities, and also having like good food and enjoying the time together, like work hard, play hard kind of thing. We did paintball last time when we were in well, you were with us as well. We did paintball, right?
Yeah, in Montreal.
Yes, exactly. So that was really, really good. Those sort of activities are really fun. If we go to Tokyo, we're probably doing a kart stuff in the streets, or some karting, whatever kind of thing. Like we'll make something fun.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. That's how I think it should be. I think it should be like a mix of kind of work and fun and everything. And it's definitely a good opportunity to go like deeper with a lot of people. you have a lot of just very random conversations that don't happen when you're just on Slack and on Zoom and all of that. Like for the next one that we do, I'm gonna see if one of my team members wants to lead it, right? That the last one that we did in Las
That'd be
Vegas,
nice.
we did a team retreat, yeah, the week before, or sorry, the week after Fran and I got married. And so because of that, it was like, hey, like we don't have any bandwidth here. We're organizing like our wedding. And someone was like, oh, that sounds like awesome. And we gave her a budget, told her what we wanted out of it. And she created like the entire like schedule. She, of course, like sent it to me to run by before like giving it to the team and everything. But we essentially had someone that like led that and just took ownership of that, right? So yeah, so that was like really good. Just a quick thing is, there's a new Slack app that I found. I don't know if it's new or not, but I just discovered it recently called Donut, and it essentially like anyone that kind of opts into it on your team, every single week they will receive like an introduction where this Slack app sends like a group message with the app and then two people on the team and goes, hey, you know, like essentially schedule a call, but it's like it's much more like involved in that. So people can like share kind of like their favorite movies and stuff like that. And so like I'm pretty sure I'm the only one on the team that actually does it. But because of that little app, I've had little one-on-one calls now with 4 different team members, and it's a lot more personal and everything. And so you can keep it to just like 15 minutes or whatever, but it does a nice little job of just kind of sporadically going like, hey, have a conversation with someone else on the team, right? And it'll be like our head of marketing talking to like, you know, one of like the low level like support people or whatever. And you just have like kind of conversations like that. So we actually implemented that because, yeah, I'm trying to create a little bit more stuff like that digitally until we can meet again in person, right? So yeah.
Well, teaser for
just
next cast when we are going to talk about like increasing the well, actually I shouldn't say it. We should leave the cast here. And then next time we'll talk about like how to increase, you know, team team exchange or team communication,
connection, chemistry, all that. Yeah.
All right. So
connection,
hopefully you enjoyed.
Chemistry and communication. That's going to be the name of the next podcast.
Nice. I like that. Okay. Well, let's do that next time. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. And yeah, it's Amar. Is it like it's Amar?
It's just Amar. It's just Amar. I'm underselling myself on Twitter. I'm going to change it to yes, it's really Amar or something like that.
There you go. Yeah. And Jay Chatelain on Twitter. Give us a shout if you like it. If you don't like it, either way, it's good to get it. All right.
give us some engagement. If you hate it, tell us you hate it.
There you go. All right. Have a good one. Bye, everyone. Bye, Amar.